All right, guys. Last one, or at least until I start writing again. The question of Incelcore as a negation, a short piece on a potential counterculture. And of course, here you got negative XP with his Incel Lives Matter shirt. Um, in small talk, I've also been looking at this article by Scott Alexander about I'm not sure how to describe it, just about incels or like you know this weird kick feminists were on at this time where they said, uh, you know, the nice guy is actually just wants to rape you. So that's really cool. Yeah. So let's begin. We can use dialectics to understand the profound resonance of Incelcore slash e-punk movement with respect to things I already covered, and hopefully this helps. This piece helps with that. First, we must see the traditional value system as the affirmation. It emerged from the Industrial Revolution as a way for people to feel like the Homo economicus and do everything with a sense of dignity. These were values that created precedent which people operated on. Of course, the people immune to this are the people not looked at with the critical comparison to it, the bourgeois. In any case, this was a culture that could mediate the inevitable conflicts. You could see these values used in both directions, from the romanticization of blue collar employment to a collective pride in a labor union. These allowed workers to still feel as though they were um, sorry, as though they were some type of free or sovereign agent, no matter the amount of truth in such. This is what affirmed onto society. This is what's affirmed onto society primarily by the affirmative class, the bourgeois, and it totalizes across society for a long time until a very important cultural shift, the development of counterculture. Counterculture must here be understood as the negation. It came from black people. It came from people most hurt by the value system: outcasts, queer people, and black people. These groups gravitated into what would become the punk movements. They became very critical of the value system and its bourgeois proponents. There is still a trace of Western principle within this, though, since are still valuing empty concepts such as freedom and civil rights. Such as not to say that those are bad, just that if you brought those up in, say, Asia, the people would reply, freedom to do what? In the emptiness they produce by negating the value system, they do not offer anything new. If we were to look at the Deleuzian Nietzschean concept of affirmative dialectics, this could be viewed as one of two things. It could be an incomplete affirmation of the negation, or it could be a completed affirmation of the negation, which affirms an inherent nihilism within it. The positivist nature of punk culture found through their fanaticism in symbols, anarchist A, Suzuki S, 141, 161, 1312, etc., and their internal hegemony slash discipline suggests that it's the latter. It certainly affirms. It just affirms a movement of expression and autonomy that does not answer the national question or that of many other things, such as cultural sociality, a philosophical principle, or politic. So here I'm trying to show people that there's the traditional values, then there's the counterculture, and what we're gonna see is that the counterculture enters the mantle of the value system, but imposes something new that will then create Incelcore. And I say Deleuze and Nietzschean because I guess I thought that like Deleuze was like a Marxist who like sometimes reads Nietzsche, but it's kind of the other way around. I don't know why so many Marxists like him, but in any case, it's not really an issue. With this in mind, let's look at the positioning of incels upon developing incel core slash epunk from here on labeled incel core. As discussed in the reaction of capital anti-fascist inform, there is the old sociality and the new sociality, two modes of interpersonal cultural existence with their own nature to them. The old sociality is principled, rational, and nationalistic. The new sociality is one which capital gave way to, and instead of the basic narrative of ideology being all around us, it is now exchanged between individuals and society in people's vain attempt to build status. There, there's me avoiding saying the word social capital. Incels live in the affirmed bourgeois mediation slash appropriation of counterculture and are given no substantive norm to prosper in, no identity to exist in. Yeah, so that nihilism I talked about earlier, that sort of oblivion of being, is really hitting a lot of people like a bus. Yeah. And I say the mediation slash appropriation of counterculture, bourgeois mediation appropriation of counterculture, because what I go on to say is that the bourgeois have absorbed counterculture and deprived it of its meaning, and now we're back at square one. We have values that help justify capitalism, and some people don't like it, and we're back at square one. Watch what I say. Uh, I mean this important. Uh, when I say media, oh shit, counterculture, and are given no substantive norm to prosper in, no identity to exist in. As counterculture grew in grassroots, as counterculture grew in grassroots engagement, it was eventually swallowed into the mainstream, with metal figures like Ozzy Osbourne or Metallica, rock figures like Kiss or Bob Dylan, rappers like Tupac, Notorious B.I.G. or Ice Cube, and several other integrations that would inspire current artists like Billie Eilish, who dresses like a rapper, or uh, many rap verses in pop music. Essentially, the counterculture had so much grassroots attention that it needed to be imported by bourgeois cultural producers and revised from within. This society is the one they react to just as the punks reacted to the value system. In 2020 to 2021, people like Negative XP, Jezebel Gebergably, Hard Christ, Hot Leather, Bad Takes Only, Egg White, Greens on Toast, and Hero uh, Gjallar Hornet and Pacific Purgatory came along and wrote about their isolated, unfulfilling life and the society it is positioned within. In their songs, you will quickly detect a lot of misogyny, social conservatism, and other prejudices. These can operate as light chauvinisms or full on bioessentialism or hatred. Uh, they mainly perceive a certain naivety within punk movements and alternative people, often associating them with communism in a similar way. They see them as somewhat well intentioned but too idealistic. The fact that the incels draw back to conservative and even fascistic values shows that real change does not come from affirming the negation. The punks entered the vacated helm of the value system, and with it they created nothing but a dichotomy between a hollow superficial edginess or dogmatic conservatism. Incelcore is a reflection of that lack of change. I would go so far as to suggest that this is a nail into the coffin for alternatives to Marxism, as anything which empowers the proletariat but keeps them as such as the proletariat will probably act similarly. It will give us a dichotomy between worker power or voluntary exchange, and in no time we'll be back in 19th century Germany. You must negate the entire relation, the affirmed society, and of course the affirmative side, and the status of the negative side. We can suppose from this that the cultural objective is to overcome the dichotomy between punk and tradition. We need a new social existence that meets people's current grievances and allows the most human development. More will likely be taken from the old sociality, but it matters not whether a side wins in dialectics. The point is that the narrative migrates closer to the truth through the debate. Change brings us closer to a higher level of species being. Someone said that species being is a humanist concept. It's not. It's not humanist to say that conscious life action then leads to XYZ. It's not humanist to draw a conclusion from an action. That's not saying that there's a human nature. That's saying that when humans do this, they then do that. Fuck's sake. In any case, so in the question of whether Incelcore is real punk, you have to put punk and counterculture into its own context and its own standing, and realize that in content, Incelcore is very countercultural, but it shows more importantly that we need to move past these constructs. Thank you for reading this, and remember to always do the dialectics. So yeah, I was I don't know, I was just really thinking about this whole uh this whole dilemma about whether incel core is like real punk or real counterculture. Like what do we care? You know, it's clearly showing something like some kind of societal malfunction, you know. And so I just decided to make that. Um so yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. I didn't do much speaking over cuz I kind of just like agreed with myself on everything, you know, as one does. So, yeah. So yeah.